Hello, and welcome to this video presentation. My name is Paul Brett. I'm a Senior Software Support Analyst supporting the Transformation Extender product from IBM. The topic for this video is ITX Advanced Debugging, Reading Trace Files. Feel free to reach out to me on popular social media channels at Paul Brett IBM. As a long-time support agent, I can confirm that reading the ITX Trace files can sometimes be challenging. Here are some tips. Start from the bottom and work up. This will save you a lot of time. Keep a note of your offset as you delve down investigation routes. And finally, learn to ignore what is irrelevant. Let's move on to some examples. We will start our demonstration in the ITX Design Studio, where you will see that I have a project called Trace Read. Within the project you will see that I have two map source files. We have test.mms in the example1 folder and test.mms in the example2 folder. Let's start with example 1. Here is my map. It's reading a Swift message using the Swift type tree that is given with the ITX pack for financial payments. As you can see, we have auditing and tracing both turned on. Tracing is set to text currently, and the trace location is file and tracing everything. At the moment, the input data is currently correct, and this map will validate successfully. Here is my input data, a fairly small Swift message. So if we build and run this map, you can see map completed successfully. We have our trace file, which does go on rather a bit, but at the end we can see input 1 was valid. So now I'm going to make a change to the input file to make it invalid, and then we'll go through the trace to see if we can find out why. Okay, the change has been made. I'm now going to run the map one more time, and as you can see we now have one or more inputs was invalid. So let's start to investigate that trace file. I'm going to open up the miscellaneous folder, and you will see that test1.mtr is available. As per my tips, we're going to go straight to the bottom and start reading from the bottom upward. So straight away we are told that from offset 0 for the length of 339, the data is invalid. It's not a category 1 input message. So basically it's found a problem with the whole thing. Moving upwards, we're still seeing a lot of offset 0 stuff. We can start to ignore these because they're not really telling us anything new that we don't already know. The next line we want to look at is where we're looking at offset 339, where it says that a plus MT103 occurrence 1 is optional, occurrence 1 of component number 5. Now let's have a look at this offset 339 and see if we can spot anything obvious. I'm going to use Ultra Edit to open this file, which in hex mode allows me to jump to an offset. Okay, my cursor is at the offset and it's this line that it's currently reading. Back to the trace and let's have a look at any further details. This is fairly generic, it's not really telling us much, telling us that component number 5 is optional and it doesn't exist. This is the one that's telling us that from that same offset 339, the beginning part of the data does not match the initiator of the trailer block. So why is it now looking for the trailer block? Well, it's already decided to discard a large portion of the data as being an invalid message, and if we read up we would further confirm that. Here it's already decided it's not a real message, which is why it went on to try and read the trailer block. So we're going to ignore this piece and this piece, and we're going to move on to this. 56D does not match terminator. Okay, so it still says this is not a message. We can ignore this 339. We can move up to see if we can find something more important. Component number 20 of the message, although the occurrence 1 is optional, it says it does not exist. Not very relevant at the moment. But what we're seeing is a lot of the same offset 339 and the message data being shown 56D, trying to match it against various objects from the type tree. Moving back, still 56D, still trying to match it to objects in the type tree. Let's go back, still 339, and we want to go back really until we stop seeing 339 as the offset. Okay, we see 318 here, so I think this is going to be the meat of the problem. And it's telling me that 56D does not match the initiator 56A. Now it is possible that this is an optional item in part of a group, and we might see it matched 56D against a 56D further down. But seeing as it's now trying to find 57A and the tags are generally in sequence, we can be fairly certain that 56D doesn't exist. And if you look at the Swift specifications, 56D is indeed not a tag. I specifically changed the A to an D. So this is how I've read the trace file from the bottom, gone through all the ignore stuff, taken the offsets until it changes to something earlier, and then the one immediately after that is the one that's telling me the information that I need. Let's move on to example 2. Example 2, another message again from the Swift pack, this time in MT950. So if I build and run this map, you will see it complete successfully. I will quickly show you the input file, a simple 950 error message. I'm going to make another change, slightly different from before, and we'll go through the trace again. Okay, the change is made, so I'm going to build and run the map. One or more inputs was invalid. Let's go through the trace file. So let's start at the bottom. For offset, from offset 0, for length 2375, it says that it's invalid data of type a category 9 message. Well, that basically says the whole thing is completely wrong. So let's ignore that one. Let's ignore that one as well for the same offset and the same length. And let's jump to the next offset. 2350. It says it's found a trailer block. Well, that's great. So let's move back to before the trailer block. We now need to ignore any offsets that are after 2350. So I'm looking for an offset that is before that number, because all of this is validated data at this moment. So here we go, 2355 is the last one that is after it. This is the first one that is before it. So here we are at 2267, where the message is being shown as invalid data of type. Okay, 2267, great. 2345, we're jumping back towards the 2350 number, and we're getting to the point of actual failure here. It's saying that component number 7 of type message MT950, occurrence 1 is optional and does not exist. Okay, that's interesting information. Let's move backwards and see if we can find a reason. We can basically ignore this at 2345, saying that there's it doesn't match an initiator. That's basically telling us that the whole lot is wrong. This next block is the interesting one. Data offset 2325, it's reading the 62F tag, and it's saying component number 6 failed a component rule test. What we need to do next is have a look at this component rule test and see what it's supposed to find and what might be wrong. So let's open the type tree at this point, message MT950. Here's that object on the type tree. We right click, we open type tree. Here are the component rules. We're looking for component rule number 6. I'm going to double click this to make it full screen. By the way, if you find that you don't have component numbers in your component list, which is helpful when there's an awful lot of them, you can add those by going into Window, Preferences, Transformation Extender, Type Tree, Group, and click on the Show Component Number tick, which I have ticked here. So let's look at component rule number 6. It says that the left 2 characters of the currency code in the current object needs to match the left 2 characters of the currency code from tag 60A. We're going to need to bring up the input data that this map is reading to make more sense of this. So let's go to the offset. Move the component rule out of the way for the moment. The offset we're looking for is 2325. Let's open our input data and go to 2325. Here's my 62F. It's saying that the currency code here does not match the currency code that's in tag 60F. Well, let's scroll backwards and see if we can find a 60F. Here's the 60F. Here's the currency code, USD, US dollars. And if we look at the current tag, we will see that we have UXD. So it's a bit cryptic, but the trace is telling us exactly what is wrong here. It's saying it's failed a component rule test, we've read the component rule, and it's doing a comparison between two currency codes, and they're basically different. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to change that file back again, so that the currency code is correct, and save, close, and in the map I'm just going to run one more time, and as you can see, map completed successfully. I want to thank you for taking the time to watch my video presentation today. If you found the content interesting and informative, please hit that like button. Perhaps leave a comment. Consider subscribing to my YouTube channel, as I release content such as this on a regular basis. Feel free to reach out to me on popular social media channels at Paul Brett IBM. Thank you.